Okay, so in the last video we talked about consumer surplus, and now to wrap things up, we want to talk about a related property, or a related concept rather, called producer's surplus. So the producer is whoever the manufacturer, retailer, or not retailer, but the company selling this product is. And what we have in the case of producer surplus, let's look back at the graph here. Your supply curve, again, influences the pricing, the pricing of your product. And if equilibrium is where we're setting the market price, but the supply is low, then the producer, the points on this part of the curve are going to give us lower prices than equilibrium. So basically the way we interpret that is that for these lower supply levels, the producer might be willing to price their product at a lower value than what the equilibrium price is being set at. So what that means is they are selling at market price, but they are willing to sell for less. And so they interpret all of this extra stuff as additional unexpected profit. And unexpected might not be the correct word to use there, but that basically that means the producer is making more money than they originally would have expected, or put differently, they would be willing to have made less money for this, but they are currently making more. So that extra that I'm talking about here, which is what would be kind of between the supply curve and equilibrium, is what we call producer's surplus. It's that extra amount of money that they're going to be making by being able to sell at market price when they would have been willing to sell for less. So we could walk through a very, very similar derivation of how to compute producer surplus, but it's so similar to how we did consumer surplus that we could sort of, do something, we could think of this through in a similar way. Basically, whereas consumer surplus represented the area beneath your demand curve and above equilibrium, the producer's surplus is going to be the area of the region above your supply curve, but below equilibrium. So what that looks like as an integral is this. Notice in that graph, we show the equilibrium price was the upper curve, is the curve on top, and supply was the curve on the bottom. So we subtract in this order. Notice the limits of integration are still the same because we're still going from 0 to our equilibrium quantity. So this integral is how we compute producer's surplus. Let's do an example similar to the one we did in the previous video. This time, we have a price-supply equation. Remember, it's supply that we need specifically. For a certain market is P equals 45 plus 0.002 x cubed dollars. This gives the price per unit when X units are supplied. We want to find the producer's surplus in these three different circumstances. So you notice this is very similar to what we saw before. Starting with part A. So we have an equilibrium point at 50, 295. Remember, that is X naught, that is P naught. So I know my limits of integration are going to go from 0 to 50. And then looking at how we compute producer surplus, it's the market price, so 295, minus your supply, your price supply function. So that's going to be 45 plus 0.002 x cubed, dx. This, between these two different types of surplus, this is the one that people are going to make more mistakes on because you're subtracting a function which usually will have more than one term. And what people tend to forget to do is they tend to forget to put parentheses around that thing they're subtracting. So this is the case where you're going to make that mistake more often. So try to catch yourself before that happens. Don't make that mistake. All right, let's do the subtraction here. So this is going to be the integral from 0 to 50. 295 minus 45 is 250. So this is going to be 250. Minus, that minus will distribute 0.002 x cubed dx, and now we can do the integration. Okay, this becomes 250x minus I'm going to add 1 to this, giving me x to the 4th, which means I'm going to divide this by 4. So that's going to be 0.0005 is what I get from that, x to the 4th, from 0 to 50. Okay, this is equal to 250 times 50 minus 0.0005 times 50 to the 4th. Put that into a calculator to work that out. Again, it's a dollar amount that we're getting. This comes out to $19,375 for producer's surplus. All right, now we're going to do these next 2 problems, but I'm going to point something out here. We have done this same type of thing multiple times now. We've been evaluating these definite integrals over and over again. And as you can expect from the consumer surplus example that we did, parts B and C are going to be very, very similar to the integrals we just did, with changes in only this upper limit of integration, this constant term right here, and then my market price. But aside from that, the steps are going to be so similar. I'm not going to use the time to go through all of the individual steps. Instead, what I'm going to do is I am going to give you the setup for the integral. I'll tell you what the answer is, but I'm going to leave it to you to fill in the gaps. You're going to fill in the work yourself, because this is the last example we're going to do in this entire class. And by now, you should have the skills to do that. So let's talk through the setup. First of all, part B, it says the equilibrium quantity is 70 units. Remember, equilibrium quantity is X naught. We do not have P naught, but we can find it by plugging in 70 for the X in our price supply function. So that's equal to 45 plus 0.002 times 70 cubed. Okay, I didn't do this ahead of time. I'm going to work this out. 45 plus 0.002 times 70 cubed, we get 731. Okay, this is equal to 731. That is market price. So now I'm going to set up my integral. The integral goes from 0 to our equilibrium quantity, which was 70, times, of the market price, 731, minus my price supply curve, which we put in parentheses, 45 plus 0.002 x cubed. And then we got our dx here. This is the integral from 0 to 50. So we have to distribute this, do the subtraction. That's going to be 600, what is that, 614, I got to work that out. That's going to be 686 minus 0.002 x cubed dx, okay? So like I said, I'm going to get you to the setup. Here is the setup. This is what we want to integrate. The integration is not hard. The arithmetic might require a calculator. You can do all of those things. So I'm going to say equals ... What does this one come out to? It should be $36,015. Okay? Please fill in these steps. It is really good practice for you. C, this time, the equilibrium price is what we know, $173. We need X naught. We know P naught. So I'm going to set P equal to 173, solve for X. 173 equals 45 plus 0.002 x cubed. Subtract 45 from both sides. So this is going to give me what? Let's see, that would be 128. Is that right? Yes, 128 equals 0.002 x cubed. X cubed is equal to 128. Whoops. over 0.002. Take a cube root to solve for that. Cube root of 128 over 0.002, which is what? Let's plug that into a calculator. Over here, 173. So, oops. 128 over 0.002. This comes out to 40. So it took me a second to work that out. So that is our market quantity. That's X naught, or equilibrium quantity. So this goes from 0 to 40 now. And then my price, my equilibrium price is 173. So we do 173 minus our function 45 plus 0.002 x cubed dx. Distribute the minus sign, combine the constants, and so this will come out to 128 minus 0.002 x cubed dx. And again, my goal was to get you through the setup phase. You can find the value of this integral with the skills that you have acquired up until this point. This comes out to $3,840 for producer surplus. Okay, and that's it for 4.6.